Hello team, welcome to the project. Today we will be building this nice application, which is a dynamic application. You can look at your favorite football teams and filter by nation and position of the players like goalie, defender, midfielder, forwards, and you can also have the search functionality to search for players. Mm, and This application will give you all the player statistics and it allows you to search for your favorite clubs and find the players, also their statistics. So this is the application we are going to build. So this application will be having uh, two parts. One where you will scrape a website using a Python script using Beautiful Soup, and the next part is to have your backend using Java. To To scrape a website, we'll be using Beautiful Soup, and once we have scraped our website, we'll have this CSV file. We'll be inserting the CSV file into a Postgres database. So all the data will be stored inside the database, and from the database, our Java application will be interacting with the database. And all the results, all the data that it gets from the database will be shown using React as the front end. So this is going to be the project for this video, and we'll do this step by step, starting with using Python to scrape a website, and going further, we'll create a database using the data we have scraped from the website. And once we have the data inside the database, we'll build the backend Java application. And in this video, I'm not going to show you about the front end, but I have provided the front end here in this Git repository. All you can do is just clone the repository, uh, open your front end in Visual Studio Code, and you'll have to run npm I to install all the modules. You'll get this folder here, and once you have this, you'll do npm start, and that will start the UI for you. I'll be ignoring this node modules from uploading to the GitHub repository because it will take a lot of space. So for that reason alone, I'll be removing the uh, node modules from the GitHub repository. So without further ado, let's start with the Python script where we scrape the website. Be showing you on how to scrape a website and get all the club details and the player details, and insert this data into PostgreSQL database. So at the end of the project, you'll have a database on your Postgres with all the data coming from the website, which is live data according to today's date. So without further ado, let's start writing the code. For this project, we'll be using Beautiful Soup to scrape the website, and we'll be using pandas, and obviously we'll be using requests module to deal with HTTP link, and we'll also need the sleep module to show the website as if we are scrolling through the website. First we need to hit the link, and the link is going to be from this website. So we'll replace this with the link. And once we have this, we'll make use of the Beautiful Soup to convert this into a XML format. We'll also add a sleep of 10 seconds here so that our IP address won't get blocked by the website, thinking that it could be a potential DDoS attack or an attack on the website. So the Beautiful Soup, we want the Beautiful Soup to find us through the elements that has the table name, and has a class that's stable. And we just want the first one. So to explain this, we are using the beautiful soup to find with the table name and the class stats. I'll show that to you on the website. So we are basically inspecting this table. So if I inspect this, you can see the beautiful soup will find us for the table. This is the first table of the link, and we only need this table. We are only dealing with this table. That's why I have given a 0, like only the first table from the list. And once we have the table, we need to get this arsenal thing. So that comes under an A tag. So we'll use a for loop to find all the A tags within the table, and that's what we'll do next. Table.find all the A tags. Since this is already an object of soup module, it will be able to find the A tag for us. And we'll create a new list here, URL link is equal to a new empty list. I can also do list I can also do the link concatenation, but to explain this even better, I'm using the default for loop. So this will find all the A tags like I showed you. It will find all the A tags and it will get all the href inside the A tag. So once we get the links and once we get the href, we will append it to the empty list. And I'll also show you how this works. And the other way for you to make this work is by using, yeah, you can also do this way to reduce the lines of code for ln links. So now we have got this link from here. So what we now have to do is we need to get inside this link. We have to hit this page, but the link will just give us this part of the link. So we'll be appending href to this part. So we'll do a Teams URL link, again an empty list, and for L in, let's say, URL link, Teams URL link dot append, and here we have to provide the full link of the website. Like, we will get this part from the beautiful soup, so we need this part. We'll put that into an fstring.com, and this will give us the L. I think it's even more understandable if I can copy this, or from here. Yeah, so we'll get this part from here. So once we have the Teams URL link, we should also check for one more thing. We should check if the squads is present in the link. So we'll add another step here. If we have the squads in the link in L, then we will append this to the Teams URL link. And I'll also print this Teams URL link. And finally, we'll provide the final link. And again, an empty list. And for this, for L in Teams URL link, this will get appended to this one. All right. think for now we have the complete link. So yeah, we can start scraping each of those web teams link. So for ln teams link, data is equal to, we will follow the same method again, requests dot get, will pass the link, and we want it to be in text format. And once we have it in text format, we'll use beautiful soup data, convert it to XML format, and we'll use the stats. And the soup will find all with the name table and the class stats table. What we mean by this is, once we are inside this link, we have this table. So if I inspect this, you can see that it is inside a table and inside a class stats table. So we hit this link and we take all the player details, like every th has a player details. So we are going to hit each of the players link and gather details about the players. And also we just need the first data from all the tables present on this website. If you see, we have multiple tables here. We only need the first table, standard stats from Arsenal stats, and that's what we mean. Just get us the first thing from the link. And we'll also add an if condition here. And we will get the team name. To get the team name, what we can do is, we have this link, right? So this link will be something like this. We will split this stats and just get this part of the link. So we'll do a split module for that. Split everything next to the slash. So we'll get a list of all these names like squads 1820. And from this list, focus on the last element of the list. And from the last element, replace hyphen stats with an empty string, and this will give us just the team name. And now it's time for us to read the actual link. We'll use pandas. I have imported pandas as PD, so I'm using pd.read.html. Then we will concatenate the stats into a string format, and we'll just take the first one of the list, and we'll also name the team data. Team is equal to team name. It's better if we add it here. So we get a column as team, and the column will be replaced with whatever the team name we are working on in this loop at this time. And once we have that, we have an empty list here. So this empty list, by this time, it would have got all the details from the link. If you see here, from the link we have nationality, position, age, games, a lot of columns. There's a lot of columns. So at the end of all these columns, we'll add another column called team name. So we'll that dot append team data. And then we'll add a sleep of 5 seconds for not getting blocked from the server. And once all this is done, we have to save the file, and we will use again pandas to convert the object of all teams, so that we can again use this object to convert this into a CSV file, and we'll name this file as players.csv. And I guess this should do the job. Let's try to run this now. initially we had a sleep of 10 seconds, and that is what is going on behind the scenes. The program is sleeping for 5 seconds now. And so if you can see here, we are getting the links from this part, URL link, and from the URL link, if there is squads in the link, it will get added to the Teams URL link. And once we have the complete Teams URL link, the beautiful soap is digging through the link, and by using the split method, we are able to get the team name alone. And the remaining part is obviously getting added to the list, the all teams list. And the pandas is starting to read the HTML, converting into string, and also appending a column with the name team, and the team column will be loaded with the team names. And yeah, like every time through the Teams URL link, it's sleeping for 5 seconds, and I think we'll be having around these many teams. I guess that should be around 20. So we have 20 loops to be completed. By the end, we will get a players.csv file. Just waiting for the link to get finished. And also I'll tell you what the next steps will be. So once we have the players.csv file, we'll use PostgreSQL to copy the players.csv file and create a new database with that, with the data that we have just created. So for that, let's start creating the database. And also you can see that we have got all the player details. So the first thing we need to do is, we don't need the first row, so we will delete it. And also this column, we just need the age. So we'll use data, text to columns. We'll use the delimiter, and we'll split it by the hyphen, and we will finish this. So we'll just get the age of the players. And also we don't need this one, this column, because our PostgreSQL will take care of the IDs. And yeah, you can see that we have got our team name here. We don't need this one as well. So we have got our data here. So the next thing that we gotta do is we will create the database. Here we have our database. So let's connect to our database, vSQL-new Postgres. We are inside the database. Create database players. League players. And the next thing we have to do is we have to grant full permissions for the Postgres user on this database. So we will do that. Grant all privileges on database, league players, to Postgres. Postgres is the user. You'll get this thing, grant. So the next thing we need to do is we need to create a table inside the database. So we'll do that. We'll create a table. Create table. We'll call this players. So the first thing we need is player name, and this will be of type varchar. We'll do 100 characters. We'll give that 100 characters for the player name. For some players like Virgil van Dijk, the boss, he has a really big name. Varchar 50. This is for nation, and the next thing we have is position. position will have a 50 here. And the next thing we have is age. Age will be of type integer. Age will be of type integer, but we also have some floating values. So I think it's better if we keep the age as a floating value. Age is float. And the next thing we have is matches played. Matches played is all integer values. So we'll keep the matches played as integer values. Integer. And the starts, how many matches the player has started from the initial minute, and that will be integer starts. And the next thing is minutes played. Minutes played is a should be a float. Let's have it float. Then we have goals. We'll skip the 90s. Goals is float, and we have assist. Assist is float. And also, since we are not using the 90s, we'll delete this. Assist is float, and we have penalties scored. We'll go for the penalties scored. Penalties scored, and we'll keep this as a floating value as well. Yellow cards, keep this as a float or also integer. Red cards, float again. And expected goals, float again. Expected assists, float again. And we'll have the team name, varchar 100. And they should create the table. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 15 columns. So we have player name, we have nation, position, age, matches played, starts, minutes played, goals, assist, and we have penalties scored. So we need this column, so we can get rid of these two. Delete. And the next thing we have is we have yellow cards and red cards. So we can take this one out of the table. And next we have is expected goals and expected assists. Which is of type float. Yeah, this is expected goals and expected assists. Need to get this name. I need the 90s, goals, assists, goals, assists, penalty scored. Then we need the yellow cards and red cards, yellow cards and red cards. Expected goals and expected assists will be from here. Red cards, yellow cards, so the expected goals and expected assists. Yeah, I believe this one should be expected goals and expected assists. So we'll keep these two columns. Yeah, we'll keep these two columns here, expected goals and expected assists. And the last thing we have is team name. So this is team name. Now it's safe to delete the row. Team. We'll also delete this. Now we have saved this players, and yeah, we should create a table. Yeah, table has been created, and we'll see the data from the table. Select star from players. We have an empty table now. So the next thing is we need to copy this Excel sheet inside the database. So for that, we'll use a backslash, copy players, copy into the players table from this path, and we'll mention a delimiter so that every object after the comma will be inserted into a new row. CSV header. Line to column. Okay, so we haven't done this again. Text to column, delimiter. Now we have got only the age. We have to save the file. Save this. Okay, so this Excel sheet is now in Windows format. So we'll convert this into a UTF-8 format, and for that we'll again use a Python script. New Python file. Name this as convert. Input file path. Output file path. And for this we need 𝐷ET. And if you guys are using 𝐷ET for the first time, you need to pip install 𝐷ET. And here we have to paste the path, players.csv. In the output, we want players final or players UTF-8 format, because the PostgreSQL expects the CSV file to not be in Windows format, but it has to be in UTF-8 format. So we have got the paths. So we'll use with block with open input file path as file. Encoding is Windows 1252. Errors, replace it as file. Content is equal to file.read. And with open output file path, this is as reading format, this is as writing format, but we want to write this as UTF-8 as file again. So we'll use file.write this content from this block. And yeah, this should do the job. We should get a new file here with the name players_UTF-8, and we'll try to use that. Oops, I have run the main. I'm supposed to run the current file, which is convert.py. Yeah, we have got the players UTF-8. So we'll mention this one to the PGSQL players underscore utf8.csv, and we have got the data inserted into PGSQL. So we can verify that by using select start from players. Yes, we have got all the data inside the database. Postgres, refresh, schemas, tables. We have got players here, all rows, and here we have all the data that we just inserted. And yeah, that's it for now. I have showed you how to scrape this website, get all the player details, and the next thing that I'll be following up here is how you can create a website using Java Spring Boot. To start with the project, head to Spring Initializer, and we'll get the starting package for the project, Java, Maven, and you can give any name here to make it unique. Football Fantasy. The Java version I have on my machine is 21, so I'll use that. We'll use Spring Web. We'll use Spring Data JPA, and we'll use Postgres. That is the database that we will be using. And once we have this, we will extract this to a location. So this is our starting project. We have got the Spring Web, Postgres, and Spring JPA. And inside the main, we have got the Fantasy application. Let's make sure the project is running. So it says the URL attribute is not specified and no embedded data source can be configured. So for that, we need to connect to a database. So let's connect to a database. Data source PostgreSQL. The user will be Postgres. This connection. Yep, apply. Okay. And now let's try to restart the application. Or the other way we can make this application work is by mentioning the URL here in the application properties. So we can mention the URL as spring.datasource.url. We'll be using JDBC driver, PostgreSQL at localhost. The port number for Postgres is 5432 and the database name is Postgres. This time we have a different error. So I'll just finish the application.properties path. And we want the JPA to show the commands on the console, on the terminal. And the DDL auto update is so that the new tables won't be created. If there is an existing table with that name, it will just update the entries. And if there is no table present, then it will create the table. And now we can see we have started the application on port 8080. So let's verify the same. Yes, we have the application running. We have error page because we haven't written any code for the application. So let's start writing the code for the application. So inside this, we'll create a few packages, one for service, one for controller, one for repository, and one as the initial class. So first let's start writing with the player class. So this player class, it should match our database, should have all the attributes just like our database. So let's start with writing the player name. First, let's make this as an entity, and the table name, since the table name is different inside the PostgreSQL, we will mention that. Like by default, the JPA will look for a table name with player, just like same as the class name. But here we have a S at the end, so it's a different name. So that's why I'm mentioning the table name here. But if your class name and if the table name is same, you don't have to mention this line. And inside this, we will type the attributes. First we need is name of the player. So type that. And next we need is private nation. So nation. The next thing we need is private string position. And we need age. So that will be integer age. And we need minutes played. So it will again be integer. Name it at minutes played. And private integer starts. How many matches the player has started the game. Then we need minutes played. So that will be a type of double. And we need private double goals. Assists, penalty scored. So assists will also be a double assists. Then we need penalties. We need yellow cards. And then we need red cards. We need expected goals. Private double expected assists. And we need private string team name. So these are all the attributes, and as you know, since the name of the attribute and the column name is different, we'll mention the column name. And also we need to mention a primary key for this table. So it will be the name of the player, player name, and we'll mention the same for all the values here. Column name, column name, column name. And this column name should match the column name inside the database. Team name, expected assists, expected goals, red cards, yellow cards, penalty scored, and we have assist, goals, assists, goals. We have minutes played, starts can be starts, minutes played, and we have matches played, age, position, nation, and player name. One thing I missed is minutes played, matches played. And with that being done, let's generate constructors. We'll need a default constructor with no arguments, and we need a parameterized constructor with all the values. So this will give us the parameterized constructor. Next, we'll generate getters and setters for all the values. And with that being done, our player class is now ready. So let's move to the repo layer. Let's create a new interface. We'll name this as player repository. And inside the player repository, first we'll annotate this as repository. And it should extend the JPA repository of the player class, and the player class player of player, and the player class, the primary key of the player class is of type string. So we will mention that here. In the method, we want this delete a player by name, delete by name, and we'll want string player name. And the other one will have optional, because if the player is not found, then the optional will help to deal with the error, find by name. In case if the player that you're trying to find, if the player doesn't exist on the database, this can help us to troubleshoot or play around with the error. That's why it's an optional. So that is all done with the repo layer. Now let's create a service layer, and we'll call this as player service. And inside the player service, we'll annotate this class as component of the string of the Spring. And inside this class, final player repository, then we'll do auto wired public player service, and we'll use this class from here. This dot player repository is player repository. So we are using method injection, auto wiring. And the first method, so the service layer is responsible for all the business logics. So in the UI, we saw we need to get players by, first let's start with getting all the players. So we'll use a list of the list of type player class, get players, return player repository dot find all. The next we want to do is get players by team, public list player, get players by team, string team name, and this method should return us player repository dot find all dot stream, and we'll add some filters here. Filter player is equal to team name dot equals player dot get team name dot collect stars to list. And the next we need is to get players by name. So again, we'll use the same logic. Get players by name, string player name. It will be same as the above class. Player repository dot find all dot stream dot filter. Player is equal to player dot get name, and we'll turn this to lowercase. And this should contain the player name dot lowercase. Once we have this, we'll collect this as a list. And the next we want is to find a player by position. So list of player, find player or get player by position. We'll name this as player position, and this should indeed talk to the player repository dot find all dot stream. Then we'll add the filters from here. Filter player dot get position, and if this is not equal to null, and player dot get position. If this is not equal to null, then we will get the position of the player, convert this into lowercase, and will contain the player position from the argument and compare the both. And once we're done with this, we'll collect this as a list. Yes, and just making sure, yeah, looks fine. So the next thing we will find is we have so far done finding players by team, by name, by position. We have one more tab on the UI that is by nation. List of player class, get players by nation, nationality, return player repository dot find all dot stream dot filter player is equal to player dot get nation, and we'll do this into a lowercase, and this should contain the nationality should be equal to lowercase, and we'll collect this as a list. And the next thing we will do is find player by public list, player, get players by team and position. And for this, we need a team name as a string and position as a string variable. Once we have this, we'll use the player repository find all dot stream dot filter player is equal to team name dot equals players dot get team, player dot get team name. And once we have this, we also need to compare the position dot equals player dot get position, player class dot get position. And once we have this, we can do and get this as collectors as toList. And we can also do some update operations like public player add player, player repository dot save player, and return player. Public, we also need an update layer, update player, and player of type update player. And here we have to, of course, bring an optional block, because what if we are trying to update a player that doesn't exist inside the database? So existing player is equal to player repository find by name update player dot get name. So if this command gives us an output, we check that by using if existing player is present, then player of type player to update existing player dot get player to update dot set name update player dot get name, player to update set position get position, player to update dot set nation, I'll go with set nation, update player dot get nation, and team name player to update set team name update player dot get team name. And once we have this, player repository dot save player to update, return player to update. But if the player is not present, then we will return null. And at the end, we'll also do a delete player, public void delete player string player to delete, player repository dot delete by name, player name. And we'll make this as transactional. We annotate this using transactional because while deleting the player, the table, the database will still maintain its integrity. So we are annotating this. And finally, let's go for the player controller. So the player controller is where we are going to have our REST mapping, RESTful operations. So we'll name this as REST controller. And the request mapping. See, the request mapping is the path that you want to access the URL. You can keep this anything you want, but our React, our front end, depends on the path. It's coded up in this format. So for you to also make use of the React, the front end, and view application in a front end UI, it's better if you use the same path. So we'll need the player service class here, and we'll do method injection. Public player controller player service, this dot player service is equal to player service, and first we need the get mapping. Public list players get all players, and we'll have request param, required is false, string name, and also you can pass name, team, position, and nationality. So all this can be, but yeah, everything should be optional values. String, we can go for team, and likewise for nation and position. Nation, nationality, and position. Import this package. Is that what it says? So if team, let's see what all methods we have. Get players by team and position, by nationality, by position, by name, by team. So we need 5 methods. So first let's go with the multiple one. If we'll go with the team and position. If team is not equal to null, I don't like to see this one here. List of player. Yeah, if team is not equal to null and nationality is not equal to null, okay, so it's team and position. So if team is not equal to null and position is not equal to null, return player service dot get players by team and position, and we pass in the team and the position. Else if team is not equal to null, then return player service dot get players by team, semicolon at the end. Else if nationality is not equal to null, return player service get players by nationality. Else if name is not equal to null, return player service dot. So we have got all except for position. Else if position is not equal to null, return player service dot get players by position, and we'll pass in the position. And if none of this matches, we'll just do an else block, get return player service dot get all the players. So that's done with our get mapping. Let's do a post mapping, put mapping, and delete mapping. Let's start with the post mapping. So the post mapping need public. This will be a response entity of player. Name this as add player, and we'll have not request param, but will have request body of type player, player to add. Player created player is equal to player service add a player of this player to add, and if this is successful, return new response entity. Yeah, created player http status dot created. This will give you a status code of 201, and we'll go for a put mapping. Same will have the public response entity player, update player, request body player, player to update, and we'll have player updated player, player service dot update player, player to update. But if the updated player, if this player is not able to be found, then we will return not found. Also wrap this in a block. But if the player was found, then we will do return new response entity updated player http status dot okay. The last thing we need is delete mapping, and the delete mapping can be at the path, player name, public response entity. I will just fill this one, response entity player, delete player, path variable string the player name. So this will call the service class to delete the player by this player name, and if that is successful, http status okay, we will also delete that player successfully. Response entity. I think I chose the wrong response entity class. Let's just say response entity okay. And we'll also need the course configuration, because our front end is coming from our React. So we need to tell the Spring application to use the React to be able to mention, to be able to link the communication within the React and our backend. Name this as a bean, public WebMVC configurer, course configurer, return add course mappings. Registry dot add mapping. So let's finally create a course config. So we'll create a new class, course config. The course config is for the Spring application to be able to communicate with the front end. So I'll just paste the code from my repository. You can get the code from here. Controller course config. We'll need this file. Yeah. 𝐾𝐜𝐴.co fantasy.controller. Yes. So that is all done with the application. Let's try to run this application and see. So our application has been started. Table name. And let's go to the URL, localhost:8080. And yes, our application is running. Also, you can search players by name is equal to Will Anthony Mohammed Salah. Since the name has some space inside it, it's finding it difficult to find that. But yeah, we can search for the team names, and the front end is working. Let's also try to start the backend. We'll just do a npm start. So the backend will be started. And once we have the backend, from here we can go for the team names, and yes, we can see our application working. So if this project gave you a good experience and if this video was helpful, please make sure you like, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment on the channel. If there could be any improvements for my recordings, let me know in the chat. So until next video, have a good one.